Great British Supermarket's efforts this year for their Christmas adverts are very good, and some of them are alongside my favourites of all the Christmas adverts on offer this year. I will start with one of those favourites of mine, and that is Tesco, who have put out a social history advert to celebrate a century of the supermarket's existence. By doing this, they have produced an advert which is a take on Back to the Future, where the delivery man drives his truck from Dickensian times through to the war and right through to the latter end of the 20th century before returning home to the present day to celebrate this year's festivities. Other than having the 100 years across their branding, this advert works as a great way to strengthen their message of how long they have been around. What makes this better as a time travel advert is the use of an old Christmas song from the 60s, whilst referencing one of the most famous films of the 1980s, which incidentally is about time travel, social history, and how things move on through the years, and of course, nostalgia. The use of nostalgia has been the main theme of every Tesco advert this year, as they have included TV cult figures from the past and the use of a 70s disco track to give the advert a more old school feel, to strengthen the message that Tesco has been around for decades. And this advert for Christmas is a nice reassurance that we still have a trusted brand with us today, as we have had over the last century.
Tesco, delivering Christmas for 100 years.
It has also been birthday celebrations this year for Sainsbury's, but instead of going through the years, this one is stuck in the past, and that's being 150 years ago, which is way before Tesco started out. This advert is about a chimney sweeper who is a boy who works for a nasty man and comes across the first Sainsbury's store, where he sees some exotic oranges who the boss buys, and then one of the oranges fall out of a box on the front, only for the boy to collect it, only then to be caught and to be banished to the wilderness, where the boss speaks with irony whilst eating the orange in an incorrect way.
Point in, some people are just rotten to the core.
Mrs. Sainsbury then comes to the boy's rescue, and then gives the boy who can't afford the fruit a bag of fruit to give to the other children. Other than showing themselves as a piece of furniture when it comes to the landscape of the Great British Supermarket, and a supermarket to sustain a typical Christmas for a typical family, probably a family who may be well off, Sainsbury's have been showing that they have been a compassionate supermarket, whilst Tesco are trying to be mighty in showbiz. Breeze, by comparison, are a supermarket who help those who need it. Therefore, the message in this advert is a bit more powerful. And you could say that there is a political message in this advert, as it's seen that Sainsbury's is promoting fair labour, and they are showing the flaws of unfair labour, this being child labour, and like Tesco travels through the time, this also shows how social history has changed. And this would be how society has changed in terms of the world of work. And this could be a warning never to return to these conditions again. And we want some things different other than the sameness of Tesco, which seems to be a theme with their advert. Basically, another way to see this is stuff your boss and stand up for yourself. I like the funny ending where the kids on the naughty list get some luscious fruit, whilst the boss, who I suppose wrote that naughty list, ends up with the coal. The logo at the end is a take on an older logo which looks brilliant and sets the tone of the vintage nature of this advert, and to be frank, I think this logo looks much better than the current one. The supermarket who did kick off the Christmas advertising bonanza this year was Asda. This advert is very Christmassy and the music is very good and fits in well with the nature of Christmas. And this is actually the advert I have seen the most this year. That's from little television I have actually watched. But for me, this lacks what Tesco and Sainsbury's do for me. However, it's still a very good Christmas advert with a very good festive feel. But I only see it in a bad light because I'm comparing it to Tesco and Sainsbury's. This advert is also set in the north of England, where Asda originates from. The supermarket has its roots in Yorkshire, as does another one of the big four, and that is Morrisons. And this year, the other supermarket from the Waitrose county has a new Christmas advert, but this advert has nothing that the rest of the Big Four have. I have found since their rebrand in 2016 that Morrison's Christmas adverts tend to be bland, especially compared to their rivals, as they just make a more festive version of their regular adverts, other than just going all out, like Asda or Tesco. At least this year we do have a new song, as over the last 3 years prior to this, we have just recycled the same Morrison's adverts with a more Christmassy rendition of Joy by Will Young. But now, since replacing Will Young this year with George Ezra, they have just made his song more Christmassy. For me, I don't think there has been a good Morrison's Christmas advert since 2013, which was the one which featured a singing gingerbread and Anton Deck. One other problem I have with Morrison's is their branding, as their new logo does look really good, but for me weakens the core Morrison's brand, as the M has been their logo from 1961 right through to this latest rebrand, which occurred in 2016, which was also the last time that Morrison's commissioned a fresh Christmas advertising campaign until today. For me, Morrison's changing their logo and dismissing the M is like the BBC using stars to put their letters in instead of the signature blocks. However, for their posh food range, they have gone all M&S, having visuals of food, and when I saw this for the first time, I actually thought it was an M&S advert. So that is why I got a surprise. The big supermarkets have over the years had increased competition from discounters, as more and more shoppers take them more seriously, which is a stray away from the bad image they had for being cheap. But it seems that the food they have on offer is brilliant and well priced. Many of these stores we are familiar from are from Germany, and these stores' popularity in the European heartland has become strongly associated with that country's economic success, mainly based around sensible finances. One of those stores who have enjoyed success in the UK is Aldi, and their success has translated to the ad field with their lovable mascot, who appears only at Christmas, Kevin the Carrot, who is back this year, and this advert uses a Robbie Williams song to accompany a more Greatest Showman nature. The song has nothing to do with Christmas, which is no problem with making the advert bad in any sense. I would say that the negative about this advert is comparing it to older adverts with Kevin the Carrot, as I think this is poorer than the last few years' efforts, which had a storyline, even though there was a take on Peaky Blinders in this advert which showed promise. Lidl, competitor Aldi, has never seemed to capture my imagination at Christmas, as their advert is basically a lifestyle advert similar to Tesco last year, which was the real reason why I did not like that advert last year, as these type of adverts do nothing to me, just similar to an ITV ident from 2013 or even Oneness. However, I really like this Christmas song though, it really gets me going. For all we talk about German success, however, I would give the discounter title this Christmas to the Brits, who actually named their discounter after a Nordic country, and Iceland for me would count as a discounter. Their advert is a lifestyle one, but what separates Iceland's men from Lidl's boys would be their imagination, as they incorporate Frozen characters in their ad to tie in with the release of the sequel film in the cinema. The family in this play charades, where an Olaf toy comes to life, and then Olaf performs in front of the rest of the cast from the film, who share their favourite things about Christmas. This advert is known as The Magic of Frozen, and it ends with a voice-over guy telling us to experience the magic of Frozen at Iceland, which is a good play on phrase, as Iceland specialises in frozen food. So it has double meaning here. A very magical advert, which also makes a very good festive advert. Overall very clever. From big shops to cheaper alternatives to show-offs, which in their reduced section, these shops only really reduce their items by 1p compared to probably at least 30% elsewhere. M&S have gone with the stars, trying out food at a Christmas market to the sound of Albatross by Fleetwood Mac, which is strongly associated with M&S after their famous It's Not Just Food adverts from 2005. Thus, this strengthens the M&S brand by bringing back this song, as this year these adverts were rebooted. Another shop for those with money would be Waitrose, who do not have an ad of their own this year as their parent company have sorted them out. There is another form of supermarket in this country, and that would be the cooperative, who have a long and interesting history in doing things differently, but these days they tend to act more like a convenience store, but they do tend to emphasise their core values of caring and sharing. Just like Morrisons and Asda, this supermarket is from the north of England, but this time west of the Pennines in the rainier Granada television region, or Manchester to be precise. The Co-op produced my favourite Christmas advert in 2017 with their choir rendition of Blur's Tender. But this year, keeping with their northern roots, instead of using a song from a band originally made in the south of England, they have incorporated a brass band, which is typically northern, and this brass band are playing a typically Christmassy song, and that is The Fairy Tale of New York. Such a tune. This Christmas advert puts out their message well of being the caring, sharing co-op, as they state in their advert that for every bit of food you buy in one of their stores, some of that money will be diverted to local causes. This is another great effort by the cooperative, and their message is more obvious in being a nice supermarket in this advert than Sainsbury's with theirs.
When our members choose Co-op food, a share of the money goes to thousands of local causes, like the BTM Brass Band. It's what we do.
On the whole, it's got to be Tesco and Sainsbury's as the best Christmas adverts, not just for the supermarkets, but possibly overall. I am Tim Goodwin, over and out, wishing you to take care this Christmas and for peace in the new year.
100 years.